Study the past, if you would define the future. The revolution is not an apple that falls when it is ripe. You have to make it fall. The laws of nature are written by the hand of God, in the language of mathematics. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. Don't settle. Whether you think you can, or you think you can't, you're right. The painter has the universe in his mind and hands. Painting is just another way of keeping a diary. Facebook is in a very different place than Apple, Google, Amazon, Samsung, and Microsoft. We are trying to build a community. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. If you think back to the beginning of cell phones, laptops, or really any new technology, it's always expensive. The mirror is my best friend because when I cry it never laughs. I am God's creation, designed according to His plan for me. By 3 methods we may learn wisdom. First, by reflection, which is noblest. Second, by imitation, which is easiest. And third, by experience, which is the bitterest. Your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny. Men build too many walls and not enough bridges. Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. The Tibetan people will need to determine who the next reincarnation of the Dalai Lama is. Any leader has to have a certain amount of steel in them, so I am not that put out being called the Iron Lady. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Don't compare yourself with anyone in this world. If you do so, you are insulting yourself. Let's be realistic. Let's do the impossible. To understand the universe, you must understand the language in which it's written, the language of mathematics. Think different. Anyone who stops learning is old, whether at 20 or 80. Anyone who keeps learning stays young. Painting is poetry that is seen rather than felt, and poetry is painting that is felt rather than seen. To draw, you must close your eyes and sing. I do everything on my phone, as a lot of people do. I don't care that they stole my idea. I care that they don't have any of their own. Over time, I think we will probably see a closer merger of biological intelligence and digital intelligence. My pain may be the reason for somebody's laugh. But my laugh must never be the reason for somebody's pain. If you can't get a miracle, become one. Wheresoever you go, go with all your heart. The future depends on what you do today. This most beautiful system of the sun, planets and comets, could only proceed from the counsel and dominion of an intelligent and powerful being. It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. The Dalai Lama is just a temporal leader of Tibet. Power is like being a lady. If you have to tell people you are, you aren't. I am an ordinary man who worked hard to develop the talent I was given. I believed in myself, and I believe in the goodness of others. I failed in some subjects in exam, but my friend passed in all. Now he is an engineer in Microsoft and I am the owner of Microsoft. Education is the most powerful weapon, which you can use to change the world. We cannot be sure of having something to live for unless we are willing to die for it. I have never met a man so ignorant that I couldn't learn something from him. Being the richest man in the cemetery doesn't matter to me. Going to bed at night saying we've done something wonderful. That's what matters to me. Failure is only the opportunity more intelligently to begin again. I have never met a man so ignorant that I couldn't learn something from him. Being the richest man in the cemetery doesn't matter to me. Going to bed at night saying we've done something wonderful. That's what matters to me. Failure is only the opportunity more intelligently to begin again. A painter should begin every canvas with a wash of black, because all things in nature are dark, except where exposed by the light. God is really only another artist. He invented the giraffe, the elephant and the cat. He has no real style, he just goes on trying other things. Unless you are breaking stuff, you are not moving fast enough. The present is theirs, the future, for which I really worked, is mine. I think it would be great to be born on Earth and die on Mars. Just hopefully not at the point of impact. The greater the struggle, the more glorious the triumph. Everything has beauty, but not everyone sees it. Happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. Live as if you were to die tomorrow. Learn as if you were to live forever. And to every action there is always an equal and opposite or contrary reaction. What is a friend? A single soul dwelling in two bodies. I am a simple Buddhist monk, no more, no less. Europe was created by history. America was created by philosophy. To be a great champion, you must believe you are the best. If you're not, pretend you are. I choose a lazy person to do a hard job. Because a lazy person will find an easy way to do it. When a man is denied the right to live the life he believes in, he has no choice but to become an outlaw. The only passion that guides me is for the truth. I look at everything from this point of view. You can't teach anybody anything, only make them realize the answers are already inside them. Stay hungry. Stay foolish. You can't build a reputation on what you are going to do. Once you have tasted flight, you will forever walk the earth with your eyes turned skyward, for there you have been, and there you will always long to return. Everything you can imagine is real. The only meat I eat is from animals I've killed myself. The scientists of today think deeply instead of clearly. One must be sane to think clearly, but one can think deeply and be quite insane. When something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. You'll never find a rainbow if you're looking down. If I fail, I try again, and again, and again. It does not matter how slowly you go as long as you do not stop. An eye for an eye will only make the whole world blind. What goes up must come down. Hope is a waking dream. My main concern is meeting with public, because my main commitment, main interest is promotion of human value, human affection, compassion and religious harmony. I do not know anyone who has gotten to the top without hard work. That is the recipe. It will not always get you to the top, but it will get you pretty near. It's the repetition of affirmations that leads to belief. And once that belief becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen. If you can't make it good, at least make it look good. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. Every day, you have to fight so that love for humanity can be transformed into concrete deeds, into acts that set an example, that mobilize. Nonetheless, it moves. I've been rejected, but I am still in love. My best friend is the one who brings out the best in me. Study without desire spoils the memory, and it retains nothing that it takes in. There is no abstract art. You must always start with something. Afterward you can remove all traces of reality. Facebook was not originally created to be a company. It was built to accomplish a social mission, to make the world more open and connected. If your hate could be turned into electricity, it would light up the whole world. If you had to buy a new plane every time you flew somewhere, it would be incredibly expensive. I always like walking in the rain, so no one can see me crying. It's a lie to think you're not good enough. It's a lie to think you're not worth anything. He who knows all the answers has not been asked all the questions. An eye for an eye will only make the whole world blind. What goes up must come down. Happiness depends upon ourselves. Number of people have said to me, after hearing your thinking, their mind becomes much more happier. In politics, if you want anything said, ask a man. If you want anything done, ask a woman. Hating people because of their color is wrong. And it doesn't matter which color does the hating. It's just plain wrong. Your most unhappy customers are your greatest source of learning. A good head and good heart are always a formidable combination. But when you add to that a literate tongue or pen, then you have something very special. Every day people straighten up their hair, why not the heart? Knowing thyself, that is the greatest wisdom. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart. Don't find fault, find a remedy. Anybody can complain. It had long since come to my attention that people of accomplishment rarely sat back and let things happen to them. They went out and happened to things. There are only two types of women, goddesses and doormats. You get a reputation for stability if you are stable for years. Of all things, I like books best. I'm a Silicon Valley guy. I just think people from Silicon Valley can do anything. A man's true character comes out when he's drunk. I never met a bitter person who was thankful, or a thankful person who was bitter. If you make a mistake and do not correct it, this is called a mistake. The weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. Sir Isaac Newton was asked how he discovered the law of gravity. He replied, by thinking about it all the time. Educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. I don't think generally politicians come from democratic country. I think not that thinking. But sometimes little bit short-sighted. They are mainly looking for their next vote. Being powerful is like being a lady. If you have to tell people you are, you aren't. I am America. I am the part you won't recognize. But get used to me. Black, confident, cocky, my name, not yours, my religion, not yours, my goals, my own. Get used to me. I studied everything but never topped. But today the toppers of the best universities are my employees. It always seems impossible. Until it's done. One must endure, without losing tenderness. Nothing occurs contrary to nature except the impossible, and that never occurs. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. The only real mistake is the one from which we learn nothing. Every child is an artist. The problem is how to remain an artist once he grows up. The thing I really care about is the mission, making the world open. My brain is only a receiver. In the universe there is a core from which we obtain knowledge, strength and inspiration. I have not penetrated into the secrets of this core, but I know that it exists. I hate writing about personal stuff. I don't have a Facebook page. I don't use my Twitter account. I am familiar with both, but I don't use them. Nothing is permanent in this wicked world, not even our troubles. In life, you have a choice, bitter or better? Choose better, forget bitter. Life is really simple, but we insist on making it complicated. First they ignore you, then they ridicule you, then they fight you. And then you win. He who thinks half-heartedly will not believe in God, but he who really thinks has to believe in God. No great mind has ever existed without a touch of madness. As long as I am alive, I am fully committed to amity between Tibetans and Chinese. Otherwise there's no use. The problem with socialism is that you eventually run out of other people's money. Rivers, ponds, lakes and streams, they all have different names, but they all contain water. Just as religions do, they all contain truths. Most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years. Resentment is like drinking poison, and then hoping it will kill your enemies. Youth should learn to think and act as a mass. It is criminal to think as individuals. If you could see the earth illuminated, when you were in a place as dark as night, it would look to you more splendid than the moon. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. Obstacles are those frightful things you see when you take your eyes off your goals. I love those who can smile in trouble. Computers are useless. They can only give you answers. People at Facebook are fairly used to the press being nice to us, or not nice to us. I think it's very important to have a feedback loop, where you're constantly thinking about what you've done and how you could be doing it better. You'll find that life is still worthwhile, if you just smile. The challenges in our lives are there to strengthen our convictions. They are not there to run us over. The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones. Where there is love, there is life. I can calculate the motion of heavenly bodies, but not the madness of people. Wishing to be friends is quick work, but friendship is a slow ripening fruit. If some people have the belief or view that the Dalai Lama has some miracle power, that's totally nonsense. I am just one human being. I am extraordinarily patient, provided I get my own way in the end. Don't count the days, make the days count. Success is a lousy teacher. It seduces smart people into thinking they can't lose. There is nothing like returning to a place that remains unchanged, to find the ways in which you yourself have altered. Above all, always be capable of feeling deeply any injustice committed against anyone, anywhere in the world. This is the most beautiful quality in a revolutionary. You may force me to say what you wish, you may revile me for saying what I do. But it moves. If you live each day as it was your last, someday you'll most certainly be right. If I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. One can have no smaller or greater mastery than mastery of oneself. Art is the lie that enables us to realize the truth. The biggest risk is not taking any risk. In a world that's changing really quickly, the only strategy that is guaranteed to fail is not taking risks. I do not think you can name many great inventions that have been made by married men. I had so many people try to talk me out of starting a rocket company, it was crazy. Failure is unimportant. It takes courage to make a fool of yourself. I encourage you to accept that you may not be able to see a path right now, but that doesn't mean it's not there. The funniest people are the saddest ones. Prayer is not asking. It is a longing of the soul. It is daily admission of one's weakness. It is better in prayer to have a heart without words, than words without a heart. Nature is pleased with simplicity. And nature is no dummy. Happiness is the meaning and the purpose of life, the whole aim and end of human existence. I have no trouble sleeping. Look at a day when you are supremely satisfied at the end. It's not a day when you lounge around doing nothing. It's a day you've had everything to do and you've done it. I hated every minute of training, but I said, Don't quit. Suffer now and live the rest of your life as a champion. I really had a lot of dreams when I was a kid, and I think a great deal of that grew out of the fact that I had a chance to read a lot. There is no passion to be found playing small, in settling for a life that is less than the one you are capable of living. The revolution is made by man, but man must forge his revolutionary spirit from day to day. I do not feel obliged to believe that the same God, who has endowed us with sense, reason, and intellect has intended us to forego their use. You have to be burning with an idea, or a problem, or a wrong that you want to right. If you're not passionate enough from the start, you'll never stick it out. Any customer can have a car painted any color that he wants so long as it is black. Nothing can be loved or hated unless it is first understood. Art washes away from the soul the dust of everyday life. Our goal is to make it so there's as little friction as possible to having a social experience. One must be sane to think clearly, but one can think deeply and be quite insane. If you think back to the beginning of cell phones, laptops, or really any new technology, it's always expensive. Your naked body should only belong to those who fall in love with your naked soul. Life without limbs? Or life without limits? Before you embark on a journey of revenge, dig 2 graves. Freedom is not worth having, if it does not include the freedom to make mistakes. Tact is the knack of making a point, without making an enemy. To avoid criticism, say nothing, do nothing, be nothing. There are techniques of Buddhism, such as meditation, that anyone can adopt. You may have to fight a battle more than once to win it. Friendship is the hardest thing in the world to explain. It's not something you learn in school. But if you haven't learned the meaning of friendship, you really haven't learned anything. If you give people tools, and they use their natural abilities and their curiosity, they will develop things in ways that will surprise you very much beyond what you might have expected. If you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his language, that goes to his heart. I know you are here to kill me. Shoot, coward, you are only going to kill a man. Where the senses fail us, reason must step in. Have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. Thinking is the hardest work there is, which is probably the reason so few engage in it. The noblest pleasure is the joy of understanding. When I was a child, my mother said to me, "If you become a soldier, you'll be a general. If you become a monk, you'll be the Pope." Instead, I became a painter and wound up as Picasso. If you just work on stuff that you like and you're passionate about, you don't have to have a master plan with how things will play out. Invention is the most important product of man's creative brain. The ultimate purpose is the complete mastery of mind over the material world, the harnessing of human nature to human needs. I think long term you can see Tesla establishing factories in Europe, in other parts of the US, and in Asia. To truly laugh, you must be able to take your pain and play with it. God's love is so real that He created you to prove it. Before you embark on a journey of revenge, dig 2 graves. Nobody can hurt me without my permission. What we know is a drop, what we don't know is an ocean. A friend to all is a friend to none. Some mischievous people always there. Last several thousand years, always there. In future, also. If you just set out to be liked, you will be prepared to compromise on anything at any time, and would achieve nothing. I'm a fighter. I believe in the eye for an eye business. I'm no cheek turner. I got no respect for a man who won't hit back. You kill my dog, you better hide your cat. Life is not fair, get used to it. Appearances matter, and remember to smile. If you tremble with indignation at every injustice, then you are a comrade of mine. Nature is relentless and unchangeable, and it is indifferent as to whether its hidden reasons and actions are understandable to man or not. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking. Don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. And, like any great relationship, it just gets better and better as the years roll on. Thinking is the hardest work there is, which is probably the reason so few engage in it. As a well-spent day brings happy sleep, so life well used brings happy death. There are painters who transform the sun to a yellow spot, but there are others who, with the help of their art and their intelligence, transform a yellow spot into sun. At Facebook, we build tools to help people connect with the people they want, and share what they want, and by doing this we are extending people's capacity to build and maintain relationships. Life is and will ever remain an equation incapable of solution, but it contains certain known factors. I've actually not read any books on time management. Life is a tragedy when seen in close-up, but a comedy in long shot. Don't put your life on hold so that you can dwell on the unfairness of past hurts. Wherever you go, go with all your heart. Hate the sin, love the sinner. Gravity explains the motions of the planets, but it cannot explain who sets the planets in motion. Patience is bitter, but its fruit is sweet. If you have a particular faith or religion, that is good. But you can survive without it. Don't follow the crowd, let the crowd follow you. The best way to make your dreams come true is to wake up. If you are born poor, it's not your mistake, but if you die poor, it's your mistake. I am the captain of my soul. A new era will dawn in Africa, when the impoverished masses of a nation rise up to rescue their right to a decent life from the hands of the ruling oligarchies. Two truths cannot contradict one another. Simple can be harder than complex, You have to work hard to get your thinking clean to make it simple. But it's worth it in the end, because once you get there, you can move mountains. When everything seemed to be going against you, remember that the airplane takes off against the wind, not with it. The smallest feline is a masterpiece. Learn the rules like a pro, so you can break them like an artist. What really motivates people at Facebook is building something that's worthwhile, that they're going to be proud to show to friends and family. If you only knew the magnificence of the 3, 6 and 9, then you would have the key to the universe. Biofuels such as ethanol require enormous amounts of cropland and end up displacing either food crops or natural wilderness, neither of which is good. Imagination means nothing without doing. Have the choice to be angry at God for what I don't have, or be thankful for what I do have. To be wronged is nothing, unless you continue to remember it. I will not let anyone walk through my mind with their dirty feet. Truth is ever to be found in the simplicity, and not in the multiplicity and confusion of things. Those who educate children well are more to be honored than they who produce them, for these only gave them life, those the art of living well. Today, more than ever before, life must be characterized by a sense of universal responsibility, not only nation to nation and human to human, but also human to other forms of life. Often it isn't the mountains ahead that wear you out, it's the little pebble in your shoe. As we look ahead into the next century, leaders will be those who empower others. A leader is like a shepherd. He stays behind the flock, letting the most nimble go out ahead, whereupon the others follow, not realizing that all along they are being directed from behind. Remember that the revolution is what is important, and each one of us, alone, is worth nothing. I do not think it is necessary to believe that the same God, who has given us our senses, reason, and intelligence wished us to abandon their use, giving us by some other means the information that we could gain through them. You can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. Art is never finished, only abandoned. The chief enemy of creativity is good sense. By giving people the power to share, we're making the world more transparent. It's not the love you make, it's the love you give. Mars is the only place in the solar system where it's possible for life to become multi-planetarian. Perfect love is the most beautiful of all frustrations because it is more than one can express. Respect yourself, and others will respect you. Some injuries heal more quickly if you keep moving. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. A man may imagine things that are false, but he can only understand things that are true. To perceive is to suffer. I am confident I will set foot again in Tibet, in my lifetime. To wear your heart on your sleeve isn't a very good plan, You should wear it inside, where it functions best. The man who has no imagination has no wings. DNA is like a computer program, but far, far more advanced than any software ever created. It is said that no one truly knows a nation until one has been inside its jails. A nation should not be judged by how it treats its highest citizens, but its lowest ones. Passion is needed for any great work, and for the revolution, passion and audacity are required in big doses. You cannot teach a man anything. You can only help him find it within himself. Details matter. It's worth waiting to get it right. The greatest deception men suffer is from their own opinions. I am always doing that which I cannot do, in order that I may learn how to do it. We have these services that people love and that are drivers of data usage. And we want to work this out, so that way, it's a profitable model for our partners. Great moments are born great opportunity. Selling an electric sports car creates an opportunity to fundamentally change the way America drives. What do you want meaning for? Life is desire, not meaning. For every disability you have, you are blessed with more than enough abilities to overcome your challenges. Silence is a true friend, who never betrays. A man is but the product of his thoughts. What he thinks, he becomes. You have to make the rules, not follow them. He who has overcome his fears will truly be free. If I had remained in Lhasa, even without the Chinese occupation, I would probably have carried the ceremonial role in some orthodox way. I usually make up my mind about a man in 10 seconds, and I very rarely change it. What you're thinking is what you're becoming. Just in terms of allocation of time resources, religion is not very efficient. There's a lot more I could be doing on a Sunday morning. Where you stand depends on where you sit. Sometimes, it falls upon a generation to be great. You can be that generation. Whenever death may surprise us, let it be welcome if our battle cry has reached even one receptive ear and another hand reaches out to take up our arms. Philosophy is written in that great book whichever lies before our eyes, I mean the universe, but we cannot understand it if we do not first learn the language and grasp the symbols in which it is written. Sometimes life's going to hit you in the head with a brick. Don't lose faith. I'm convinced that the only thing that kept me going was that I loved what I did. The knowledge of all things is possible. The urge to destroy is also a creative urge. On engagement, we're already seeing that mobile users are more likely to be daily active users than desktop users. They're more likely to use Facebook 6 or 7 days of the week. Inventors don't have time for married life. Tesla is becoming a real car company. You need power only when you want to do something harmful, otherwise love is enough to get everything done. Faith, full assurance in the heart. You cannot open a book without learning something. You must not lose faith in humanity. Humanity is like an ocean. If a few drops of the ocean are dirty, the ocean does not become dirty. If I have ever made any valuable discoveries, it has been due more to patient attention than to any other talent. The educated differ from the uneducated as much as the living differ from the dead. Today, different ethnic groups and different nations come together due to common sense. Airplane travel is nature's way of making you look like your passport photo. One of the things I learned when I was negotiating was that until I changed myself, I could not change others. Silence is argument carried out by other means. God is known by nature in His works, and by doctrine in His revealed word. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. This approach has never let me down, and it has made all the difference in my life. Learning never exhausts the mind. Bad artists copy. Good artists steal. One of my big regrets is that Facebook hasn't had a major chance to shape the mobile operating system ecosystem. Peace can only come as a natural consequence of universal enlightenment and merging of races, and we are still far from this blissful realization. I think we are at the dawn of a new era in commercial space exploration. I remain just one thing, and one thing only, and that is a clown. It places me on a far higher plane than any politician. God gave you just one mouth, but He gave you 2 ears, so you should listen twice as much as you speak. Attack the evil that is within yourself, rather than attacking the evil that is in others. To give pleasure to a single heart by a single act, is better than 1,000 heads bowing in prayer. Live your life as an exclamation, rather than an explanation. Those who know, do. Those that understand, teach. Computers make me totally blank out. Plan your work for today and every day, then work your plan. You lose nothing when fighting for a cause. In my mind, the losers are those who don't have a cause they care about. When you have money in hand, only you forget who are you. But when you do not have any money in your hand, the whole world forget who you are. It's life. A winner is a dreamer who never gives up. Better to die standing than to live on your knees. Mathematics is the key and door to the sciences. The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. There are 3 classes of people: those who see when they are shown, those who do not see. Inspiration exists, but it has to find you working. The majority of people who don't have the internet because they don't know why they want to use the internet. Instinct is something which transcends knowledge. We have, undoubtedly, certain finer fibers that enable us to perceive truths when logical deduction, or any other willful effort of the brain, is futile. Some people don't like change, but you need to embrace change if the alternative is disaster. In the end, everything is a gag. You can't even stand without risking to fall. What the superior man seeks is in himself. What the small man seeks is in others. Each night, when I go to sleep, I die. And the next morning, when I wake up, I am reborn. To myself, I am only a child playing on the beach, while vast oceans of truth lie undiscovered before me. Whosoever is delighted in solitude is either a wild beast or a god. I always believe the rule by king or official leader is outdated. Now we must catch up with the modern world. For every idealistic peacemaker willing to renounce his self-defense in favor of a weapons-free world, there is at least one warmaker anxious to exploit the other's good intentions. The man who views the world at 50 the same as he did at 20 has wasted 30 years of his life. Our success has really been based on partnerships from the very beginning. After climbing a great hill, one only finds that there are many more hills to climb. In a revolution, one triumphs or dies. In questions of science, the authority of 1,000 is not worth the humble reasoning of a single individual. Why join the Navy if you can be a pirate? The deeper the feeling, the greater the pain. If I paint a wild horse, you might not see the horse. But surely you will see the wildness. It's against all of our policies for an application to ever share information with advertisers. There's nothing. I've bought everything I want. I don't like yachts or anything. You know, I'm not a yacht person, and I've got pretty much the nicest plane I'd want to have. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent and all will be lost. Fear is often described as false evidence appearing real. When you see a good person, think of becoming like him. When you see someone not so good, reflect on your own weak points. To explain all nature is too difficult a task for any one man or even for any one age. I count him braver who overcomes his desires than him who conquers his enemies, for the hardest victory is over self. Disagreement is something normal. When people are free to choose, they choose freedom. It's just a job. Grass grows, birds fly, waves pound the sand. I beat people up. I believe that if you show people the problems and you show them the solutions, they will be moved to act. Live life as though nobody is watching, and express yourself as though everyone is listening. Scripture is a book about going to heaven. It's not a book about how the heavens go. Creativity is just connecting things. The function of muscle is to pull and not to push, except in the case of the genitals and the tongue. I'd like to live as a poor man with lots of money. People love photos. Photos originally weren't that big a part of the idea for Facebook, but we just found that people really liked them, so we built out this functionality. The factory is the machine that builds the machine. Life is a tragedy when seen in close-up, but a comedy in long shot. To truly laugh, you must be able to take your pain and play with it. Have you ever felt trapped in circumstances, then discovered that the only trap was your own lack of vision, lack of courage, or failure to see that you had better options? The man who asks a question is a fool for a minute. The man who does not ask is a fool for life. Whatever you do will be insignificant, but it is very important that you do it. No old men, excepting Dr. Wallace, love mathematics. I totally disagree with the view that the Tibet struggle will die, and there will be no hope for Tibet after the Dalai Lama passes away. I believe in the religion of Islam. I believe in Allah and peace. It's fine to celebrate success, but it is more important to heed the lessons of failure. What counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is what difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we lead. All truths are easy to understand once they are discovered. The point is to discover them. Focusing is about saying no. Focusing is about saying no. Principles for the development of a complete mind. Study the science of art. Study the art of science. Develop your senses, especially learn how to see. Realize that everything connects to everything else. The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. The main Facebook usage is so big. About 20% of the time people spend on their phone is on Facebook. Facebook is quite entrenched and has a network effect. It's hard to break into a network once it's formed. Words are cheap. The biggest thing you can say is elephant. I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. It is easy enough to be friendly to one's friends. But to befriend the one who regards himself as your enemy is the quintessence of true religion. The other is mere business. If I have done great things, it's because I was standing in the closet of smart men taking notes and then publishing their ideas as my own. The aim of art is to represent not the outward appearance of things, but their inward significance. I feel exhausted if I teach too long. I do not know anyone who has gotten to the top without hard work. That is the recipe. It will not always get you to the top, but it will get you pretty near. Allah is the greatest. I'm just the greatest boxer. May your choices reflect your hopes, not your fears. The greatest wisdom is to get to know oneself. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again. I have been impressed with the urgency of doing. Knowing is not enough, we must apply. Being willing is not enough, we must do. The world doesn't make sense, so why should I paint pictures that do? I just want to make sure when I have kids, I can spend time with them. That's the whole point. Nobody wants to buy a $60,000 electric Civic. But people will pay $90,000 for an electric sports car. In the light of our egos, we are all dethroned monarchs. Trade the life of self-pity that I was living for a life of purpose. Music produces a kind of pleasure which human nature cannot do without. You don't know who is important to you until you actually lose them. Poverty is the parent of revolution and crime. I think technology really increased human ability. But technology cannot produce compassion. Silence is golden when you can't think of a good answer. We know too well that our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinians. Passion is the genesis of genius. I would trade all of my technology for an afternoon with Socrates. It is easier to resist at the beginning than at the end. I do not seek. I find. What really motivates people at Facebook is building stuff that they're proud of. Physics is really figuring out how to discover new things that are counterintuitive, like quantum mechanics. It's really counterintuitive. Despair is a narcotic. It lulls the mind into indifference. Risk, then, is not just part of life. It is life. The place between your comfort zone and your dream is where life takes place. It's the high anxiety zone, but it's also where you discover who you are. It is not the failure of others to appreciate your abilities that should trouble you, but rather your failure to appreciate theirs. You may never know what results come of your actions. But if you do nothing, there will be no results. It is not enough to win a war. It is more important to organize the peace. World belongs to humanity, not this leader, that leader or that king or prince or religious leader. World belongs to humanity. It's lack of faith that makes people afraid of meeting challenges. And I believed in myself. I am not an optimist, but a great believer of hope. The book of nature is written in the language of mathematics. Everything is important, that success is in the details. As you cannot do what you want what you can do. If only we could pull out our brain and use only our eyes. My goal was never to make Facebook cool. I am not a cool person. I've actually made a prediction that within 30 years a majority of new cars made in the United States will be electric. And I don't mean hybrid, I mean fully electric. Life is a play that does not allow testing. So, sing, cry, dance, laugh and live intensely, before the curtain closes and the piece ends with no applause. Having faith, beliefs, and convictions is a great thing, but your life is measured by the actions you take based upon them. If I had no sense of humor, I would long ago have committed suicide. The high-minded man must care more for the truth than for what people think. The best way to resolve any problem in the human world is for all sides to sit down and talk. Age is whatever you think it is. You are as old as you think you are. It is not where you start, but how high you aim that matters for success. The sun, with all those planets revolving around it and dependent on it, can still ripen a bunch of grapes as if it had nothing else in the universe to do. Design is not just what it looks like and feels like. Design is how it works. Youth has no age. My goal was never to make Facebook cool. I am not a cool person. The fuel cell is just a fundamentally inferior way of delivering electrical energy to an electric motor than batteries. I suppose that's one of the ironies of life, doing the wrong thing at the right moment. What really matters are the lives you touch along the way and how you finish your journey. The gem cannot be polished without friction, nor man perfected without trials. I offer you peace. I offer you love. I offer you friendship. I see your beauty. I hear your need. I feel your feelings. Pleasure in the job puts perfection in the work. We can live without religion and meditation, but we cannot survive without human affection. We can't be brave without fear. Sometimes, it falls upon a generation to be great. You can be that generation. Wine is sunlight, held together by water. The artist sees what others only catch a glimpse of. If I don't have red, I use blue. A frustration I have is that a lot of people increasingly seem to equate an advertising business model with somehow being out of alignment with your customers. I think it's the most ridiculous concept. The goal of Tesla is to accelerate sustainable energy, so we're going to take a step back and think about what's most likely to achieve that goal. The hardest thing of all is to find a black cat in a dark room, especially if there is no cat. Learning is not child's play. We cannot learn without pain. Wisdom is knowing when you can't be wise. The brave man is not the one who has no fears. He is the one who triumphs over his fears. There are those who reason well, but they are greatly outnumbered by those who reason badly. If you live each day as if it were your last, someday you'll be right. Life without love is no life at all. I paint objects as I think them, not as I see them. About half my time is spent on business operation type stuff. Tesla is here to stay and keep fighting for the electric car revolution. More than cleverness, We need kindness and gentleness. I am gonna try again, because the moment I give up, is the moment I fail. Give a bowl of rice to a man and you will feed him for a day. Teach him how to grow his own rice and you will save his life. I have gained this by philosophy. I do without being ordered what some are constrained to do by their fear of the law. When it comes to love, compassion, and other feelings of the heart, I am rich. Lead from the front. But don't leave your base behind. It is a beautiful and delightful sight to behold the body of the moon. Nature does not act by means of many things when it can do so by means of a few. My job is not to be easy on people. My job is to take these great people we have and to push them and make them even better. Innovation is the only way to win. Iron rusts from disuse, stagnant water loses its purity, and in cold weather becomes frozen. Even so does inaction sap the vigors of the mind. The time will come when men such as I will look upon the murder of animals, as they now look on the murder of men. People want to find a meaning in everything and everyone. That's the disease of our age. I begin with an idea, and then it becomes something else. I do love email. Wherever possible I try to communicate asynchronously. I'm really good at email. People work better when they know what the goal is and why. It is important that people look forward to coming to work in the morning and enjoy working. A day without laughing is a day wasted. I believe in the power of laughter and tears, as an antidote to hatred and terror. A tramp, a gentleman, a poet, a dreamer, a lonely fellow, always hopeful of romance and adventure. In this desperate way, I started many a comedy. Think about yourself at least once in your life, otherwise you may miss the best comedy in this world. Movies are a fad. Audiences really want to see live actors on a stage. There are more valid facts and details in works of art than there are in history books. Simplicity is not a simple thing. The way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. My lips never know my problem, they just always smile. Hold faithfulness and sincerity as first principles. Do unto others what you want done unto you. A lion chased me up a tree, and I greatly enjoyed the view from the top. Better a diamond with a flaw than a pebble without. When it is obvious that the goals cannot be reached, don't adjust the goals, adjust the action steps. Forget injuries, never forget kindnesses. Hold faithfulness and sincerity as first principles. If what one has to say is not better than silence, then one should keep silent. The energy of the mind is the essence of life. I count him braver who overcomes his desires than him who overcomes his enemies. He who cannot be a good follower cannot be a good leader. Without friends, no one would want to live, even if he had all other goods. Wit is educated insolence. It is not always the same thing to be a good man and a good citizen. The energy of the mind is the essence of life. Learning is an ornament in prosperity, a refuge in adversity, and a provision in old age. Misfortune shows those who are not really friends. Happiness is a state of activity. The more you know you don't know. All men by nature desire knowledge. Dignity does not consist in possessing honors, but in the consciousness that we deserve them. I count him as braver who overcomes his desires than him who overcomes his enemies.